It's time to get back to talking Philadelphia Union with a game this upcoming weekend. Plus, we've got to get into Copa America. We've got to talk about some summer transfer window options, Julian Carranza's future with the Philadelphia Union, and much more. Welcome to PHOI Union Podcast. We've got JP Zapata, my better half, on the show, myself, Renee Washington. Thanks so much for tuning in with us live here on YouTube and Twitter. And listen, there's a lot to talk about, even with the fact that the Union did not play this past weekend. We got a break. I think it was a much-needed break for the team. We, of course, know there are guys that's had international call-ups, so we'll be able to highlight their weekend as well. Not all were great this past weekend, that's for sure. There were some very interesting results. But, JP.
Renee.
This week, more Union soccer.
Yeah.
It feels weird that we didn't have anything Union to watch this past weekend. I don't know about you, but it was odd. I was feeling like I was forgetting something because we've got two babies. We've got our Union baby, and then we've got the Phillies cousins show. And I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting my other child right now.
Literally. No, honestly, came at the right time for me personally because it was a hectic week at the end. From a concert to our PHOI Phillies watch party. Great time, by the way. Shouts to everyone that came out. Even Bryce Harper was embracing his soccer love, doing the slide, which was really cool, captivated Philadelphia. But it felt weird, but I think it was much needed. And I think more importantly, Renee, I think the team needed it, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about it as the week goes on. But listen, you got a tough matchup here this upcoming Saturday against Miami. Obviously, Miami, I mean, we don't need to dive deep into who they have. We know who they have. And this is a Union defense that has been slumping as of late. So I think this bye week came at the right time because they needed to go back to the drawing board. And I know Jim, I know his analytical team are trying to figure out other ways to get this defense back to where we know it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a tough challenge here against Miami, but we'll see. But it was definitely good to have a little bit of a week off here.
It is wild when you think about, the timing of this. It's the rest conversation that we always have because, and I'm hoping that the rest was needed. I think the rest was needed, especially with having, Miami coming up. But yeah, as you're mentioning, we had our Phillies live watch parties for the London series. I know, Julian, you're saying in the chat.
Hey,
yes, we had the Phillies
Jose?
in London to keep us occupied. And Jose, thanks for the well wishes. Yeah, I mean, we had plenty to go around. The two teams that are playing right now in Philly, in the Phillies and the Union, are definitely keeping us very busy. That's for sure right now. It's good problems to have because you look at how the games are transpiring and things like that. It's been fun times. They've been holding it down. So now that we get to shift back into focusing on, looking ahead to this weekend, looking ahead at the Miami matchup, we got to talk about one of the more pressing conversations. I know, JP, you were talking about it on Twitter because there's been the conversation. There's layers to the roster moves and decisions for what the Union should have moving forward. The first layer of that starts with Julian Carranza's future with the team. If the Philadelphia Union, I almost said the Phillies, if the Philadelphia Union can afford to keep him, if they can pay, if they will pay, there's so many questions I have. Will they pay? Can they pay? What is that final number going to look like? We have, of course, heard rumors about other teams that are heavily pursuing Julian Carranza, and rightfully so. You look at how he's been playing this year alone. He's taken major strides in his play as being that consistent goal scorer, but also being a guy that can high press and defend well, that can create, that can do, honestly, a little bit of everything, and is bringing the consistency. So it's by no surprise that other clubs around soccer are looking to bring in Julian Carranza. And with every rumor, I get more and more nervous because we know for the Union, typically, historically, they don't spend a lot of money. So if it becomes a bidding war, that makes me very nervous. So first things first, because regardless what decisions they make in terms of the roster, I don't know realistically how confident I am in the Union being able to keep Julian Carranza. I feel like every day I kind of go back and forth. With every goal, with every game, that he shows how much he's needed on this team, I feel like it should also be seen from the front office of we got to lock him in. Sugarman, everybody, we got to lock him in. We got to keep him. But then I also get nervous because if there's some big high price market numbers that are being offered, will that sway? Will that sway the decision of let him walk, we'll take the money and we'll go invest in and bring in somebody else? I don't know. I get nervous. I'm very nervous because this, to me, keep Julian Carranza, lock him in, pay whatever is needed to keep him. But I don't know that I have that much faith
No, I completely understand that, and Julian bringing up a good point. His absence has been felt when he hasn't been in there. I mean, the team
Yes.
struggles to score goals. I mean, this is a team that doesn't, they don't light up the scoreboard to begin with. But with Carranza, he's a dynamic scorer, and we always do
Hmm.
know that. I don't know what the front office is thinking. I would like to believe that they feel the way we do, and like, yeah, if you can't sell him off, and it'd be nice to sell him off only because his contract will be up at the end of the year. And
Hmm.
guys, I do think that the interest in him is absolutely legit.
Yeah.
Renee mentioned it, his scoring ability this season. And honestly, you talk about most valuable player type of attributes. One thing I always talk about is yes, there are great players. I mean, these are professional
Hmm.
sports. But what does the team look like without the player? And that was my argument with the whole Jokic and Embiid stuff the past couple of years with the NBA
Yeah.
MVP. You look at the Sixers without Embiid, they're not the same team. You look at the
Hmm.
Union without Julian Carranza, it's not the same team. Now, I'm not obviously saying that Carranza is an MVP candidate this year, but you guys see the impact that Carranza has on the soccer
Hmm.
club. So, Feyenoord, it seems like it's a legit rumor, right? We still don't have anything concrete, but it is the Netherlands. It is a league that just develops players, and Carranza, I feel like he just needs a jumping board to Europe. And if it's the ever DCA, that league is great for development and finishing out your development in general. I think it's a great spot for him. What do the Union do after that? That is going to be the key question. We had another rumor this past week as well that we do need to bring up. And I wanted to bring this up real quick too, Renee. So yesterday, there is a Club Leon, or I'm sorry, last week there was a Club Leon Twitter account called Territorio Esmeralda, which in English translates to territory, Emerald Territory. All right. So they tweeted out last week that there has been legitimate talks about their player, El Diente Lopez, who's a forward. There has been interest from Fluminense and Vasco da Gama from Brazil. There's been a
Hmm.
couple other Mexican teams, but they threw in one MLS squad, and that was the Philadelphia Union, which was intriguing because we don't get thrown into these type of rumors typically.
Hmm.
Now, Diente Lopez is a little bit of an older player, guys. We do know that. But he does seem to be a flexible player that can play in different positions in the attack there. But he is 30 years old. So that's like the one thing where it's like that's not typically where the Union steer, right? They like
Hmm.
more early 20s. They obviously like young players. They want to develop those type players. But I tweeted out that I think that this is where the Union should kind of go. I don't think they're going to pursue. I don't think they will pursue
Yeah.
Diente Lopez, but that's the type of player that I want him to bring. 30-year-old, it seemed like this guy knows how to score the ball. He has that dog in him. I just like his mental build, the way that
Hmm.
he's kind of plays. But it was interesting, Renee, because I love getting in these discourses on Twitter. There seems to be a confliction with the fan base.
Yeah.
There is a group of the fan base that agrees with what I feel that this team right now needs a forward more than
Hmm.
anything else. And there is a contingency within this fan base that believes that we should go with defender.
Right.
So that's where we're going to kind of open the debate to here, and people can chime in the comment section. But I thought that was interesting because for me, it just feels like, yeah, the defense is a problem right now. There's no denying that. But
Hmm.
I feel like that can be fixed. I think that they can turn that around. The
Hmm.
attack is good, but how good is it? And that's a question that I've had since even that MLS Cup run, which I know they were killing in the summer, but we saw what happened in the MLS Cup final there. So, look, this is going to be the question that we're going to be asking ourselves. What should the Union do with buying players? Obviously, we know they typically are limited with with money that they spend to buy players because it's just who we are. But where should we spend the money, Renee?
Yeah.
That's a debate.
You just unpacked a lot there, JP. Listen, I think starting the first things first, I'm going to go back to Julian Carranza first because this is where it's difficult. He is going to become a free agent, of course, the end of December. We don't even think he's going to make it that long before something has to be decided, whether it's with the Union or not. And as you mentioned with Feyenoord, who as a club out of the Netherlands is, in advanced talks with Julian Carranza, is somebody that would give him be a significant addition in their squad, but probably be able to give him a better contract. And then on top of that, because there are plenty of clubs around soccer that are looking to have conversations and contract talks with Carranza for the Union, what does that mean? Because to Julian's point and to what we've talked about before, you see every game that Julian Carranza has not played in, you can tell the difference in the squad. And I always get weary of, do you bring in a new guy that's going to take some time to transition, learn the tendencies of his teammates and vice versa, need time to transition to the new environment, or go with the guy who you already have that's already been here for a couple of seasons, that already has taken time to, to bond and build the chemistry with his teammates. And with how young Carranza is as well, to be able to keep him another year or two, pay him, keep him, and build with him, to me, sounds like a very viable solution. Like, that's the direction I would want the Union to go versus having to start all over again. Because part of the issue when you look over the years, Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, over the years of different, even a Casper Shabilko, different guys, Corey Burke, that they've lost and replaced, that replacement takes time. It doesn't happen instantly. It's not a plug-and-play situation. It's going to take time for that new player to come in and bond and gel and figure things out. So I would love, regardless of who the Union is targeting, to lock in Julian Carranza. Obviously, locking him in does change who you're targeting because you have to pay him. You got to afford to keep him. And in order to pay him means you might not have enough money to give to somebody else like a Lopez, for example. So to me, it's keep him, and maybe now the player you're bringing in isn't as big of a flashy signing and a big name guy that's making a splash as soon as you hear the news drop, but is going to be another piece that can make an impact, compete for a starting spot, help change things. So that's the first thought that I have in terms of even what the Union should be looking to do. Before I even get into what position they are looking to bring in, I think first things first is you lock in Carranza, keep him, keep this offense that's finally, JP, generating chances, scoring chances. We have had over half their games this season where they've scored 2 or more goals. They are actually scoring. The difference is they're not winning games. They're not able to, get clean sheets. They're not able to put teams away, but they are scoring. They are creating more. They are looking a little bit more similarly to kind of some flashes of what we saw in 2022, to be honest, of how their offense is clicking. The movement's been there. The passing has been there, but something is definitely still missing. That is evident. Yeah. Regardless of where in the depth chart, in the lineup, something is clearly missing for this team. But I don't know about you. Before we even get into what position, because that's a lot in itself, do you feel like the Union should lock in on Carranza? Or are you on the side of let him go, bring the money in, and it's not a rebuild, and build from there?
Obviously I would love to keep Carranza. I just realistically thinking, I just don't think Carranza wants to stay here long term. I think he's had in his mind that he's wanted to play. I mean, like, Renee, we've interacted with Carranza, right? Like, love Carranza. I think once it's all said and done, he's a player that we're all going to remember for the rest of our lives because he's brought on some great moments, and he's just super talented in general. But, just the vibe, it just doesn't feel like this is something he's thinking about long term.
You mean when he was saying his favorite part about Philly is being able to go to D.C. and New York?
I mean, come on, that's a little bit. That's
like
a little
asking
bit
him his favorite part of the city, and he's like, "I love to be able to go to D.C. and New York." I'm like, but what about this city? What do you like about this city that you are in? That's a good point you bring up. Sadly,
yeah. So I mean, like what Julian said is the best case scenario, right? The best case scenario is you sell him in the summer. You get maybe $2 million, if that, right, off a transfer fee. And then you loan him for the rest of the season to come back here to essentially stay here. And then after that, if he goes to Feyenoord or wherever he goes, that next deal that he signs, because trust me, I think Carranza, wherever he goes, that first team in Europe, he's going to be moving on shortly after that.
Yeah.
I think his trajectory is similar to Tati Castellanos. I've always said that. I still feel like that. So get that transfer fee clause for his next deal. So if you sell him off this summer, you loan him, you get that loan deal to stay here for the rest of the season, and then after Feyenoord or whatever that club is, if he gets sold off to a Bundesliga side, a Serie A side, a portion of that transfer fee comes back here. That is the Ernst business that we always love and we always, just rave over. So to answer your question, I would like for him to come back. I just don't think it will happen per se. But
Dang.
the other tough part about it too is you want to keep him here for the rest of the season because, like you said, like making those signings in the middle of the summer transfer period and hoping that they can just gel for the rest of the season you're just asking for a recipe for disaster. Like don't that only works for like your aging Euro stars, like
Right.
when like a Zlatan
Right.
comes in the middle of the season, like he's knocking in for like 30 goals, like that type of stuff is so hard to do. That's why it's so crucial. And I mean, I still have trust in Ernst, but it's going to be crucial the way they handle Julian Carranza.
It's very important. This is a big move because exactly as we're talking about, whatever changes are made, there is going to be a period of learning. It's not going to instantly translate to success from day one. There are, as you mentioned, JP, very few players. It takes a specific type of player that can come right in and hit the ground running. As we had Seba talking about with us on the show, a lot of times these roster moves are made and you're playing a game with that team within a week. So you go from I'm living in one city with one team to within a day, it's like pack up your stuff, you're moving. Oh, wait, jump right into training, jump right into a game. You're relocating to a new environment, sometimes even to a new league, especially in the soccer world. And on top of that, you have to jump right in and play games with guys that, first of all, they might not all even speak the same language as you because of the diversity of the league, which is a great thing in itself. But it does require a language barrier that you might be on a team with guys and you don't even speak the same language, let alone the same soccer language of knowing tendencies, movements, soccer personality, things like that. So there's so many layers to this. And I feel like for simplifying things, a mid-season move would be better if you can keep Julian Carranza. And let's say, at the end of the season, he goes. Yeah. But realistically, I think we all had a feeling that once the season started, summer was the time for Julian Carranza. We had heard all the rumors. It's been constantly talked about in that, the summer transfer window was going to be something to keep an eye on for him, that he was going to stay, lock in. But, there's a high likelihood that this summer transfer window is going to see Julian Carranza out of Philly. Realistically, I think we can all be realistic about that. So it is unfortunate because you do love what he's bringing to the team, how he's playing, how the team has been looking. And it's a shame to think that they're going to be, this summer having to change it up and not start all over, but, fix things and tweak things and bring in somebody new. So it's a lot. It's a lot to think about.
Real quick, Jose did bring up something that's important. I completely forgot when we did this deal. So when we acquired, I should say, when we signed Carranza permanently after that loan deal with Miami, there was a clause in there that if we sold off Carranza, a percentage of that transfer fee would go back to Miami. So that we don't know the percentage. It's still, I did a quick search on the World Wide Webs, and I still haven't found anything as a concrete percentage here. But
that's the thing. You have to make the best business move.
Yeah.
Financially, it has to make sense too, of course. But, when you look at all the clauses of contracts and deals and whether it's a loan situation, a full-on trade, whatever it is, that's going to take time. That's something that I'm sure has been the reason why the summer transfer window is more of an option versus having had that move made in the final weeks before the season started. So I'm hoping Julian Carranza will stay with the Union. We don't have to worry about, a complete shakeup, but instead make a small addition because we don't need addition by subtraction. I would love addition in addition to Carranza's being locked in, because otherwise you're now going to have to, you think about it, you're losing, one of your leading goal scorers. And then you're going to bring somebody else new in the middle of the season. That's not a minor roster move. That we're not talking about you're bringing in a depth piece. You're bringing in, a third string goalie. You're talking about bringing in a guy that's going to be with the expectation, or should be with the expectation, that they're replacing Julian Carranza. That's the next issue of this. And the other issues, just thinking, who is that option? What position is it? But before we even talk about that, let's talk about some of the easy choices that you can make. That's going to Rite Aid, checking out the great services that they have, because Rite Aid does a tremendous job of providing you with all the support to protect you and your family and make sure that you've got all types of things to purchase from Rite Aid. They've got the over-the-counter medications, the snacks, the last-minute, those birthday cards and gift bags, as well as makeup, sunscreen. I always love the Rite Aid section where they have all the seasonal items. So now that it's summertime, you can go in and see pool floats, beach toys, and buckets and shovels, sunscreen and towels, chairs, coolers. Rite Aid has everything you need. And I was just in Rite Aid this past weekend because I had to run in and buy medication for someone. I didn't know where to find it, which aisle it was in, and actually had to reach out and ask one of their pharmacists for help. And the Rite Aid pharmacist was extremely helpful in getting me the information I needed, finding the medicine, but also giving me all the details and things that I needed because I wasn't sure of what to find. And that's what I love about Rite Aid, because the convenience of Rite Aid, the fact that you can find them anywhere. I was driving around looking for a place to go, and I was like, oh, saw the big blue letters and green letters. There's Rite Aid. And so I, no hesitation, ran into Rite Aid. And they will always help you out with any questions you have, with finding all the things you need, last minute things, planning in advance, but also with their pharmacy services. You can refill prescriptions, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendations like I was able to get this past weekend, get any sort of prescription notifications. They also have some mobile options for you as well, where you can sign up to get courtesy refills that are easy to do. You can manage your prescriptions with the mobile app, and you can make sure to transfer or refill any prescriptions to the mobile app. So they're also simplifying on top of the simplification of what already is the convenience of Rite Aid. And so you can transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Just go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid's caring pharmacist will be able to help answer any questions you have, help you stay healthy, and help make sure that when you want to make that quick run into Rite Aid, I don't know about you guys, I'm not in there for a long time. I'm there to find some stuff quickly and get out. And Rite Aid will help you to do just that, to get your prescriptions along with anything that Rite Aid has that you may need, including those over-the-counter medications, the household products, the cleaning products, the case of water, whatever it is, cosmetics and more. Just ask your pharmacy team for more details and they'll be able to help. And of course, some restrictions do apply, but go check out your local Rite Aid for all the convenience you need to simplify one part of your life, and that is finding those products that you're looking to buy.
I love it. Awesome stuff, Renee. All right, guys. Let's real quick now talk about our other convenient friends here at Bet Parks, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Because listen, guys, we are currently in playoff season. We're actually in championship season. We have the Stanley Cup championships. We have the NBA Finals going on right now as well. Of course, we are in full swing of the MLB and the MLS season. So there are things to bet on, but they have a bunch of great games on their app there as well. Get in the zone today with BetPark Sportsbook app. Money is in the moments. Win big with all-day action. You win your first $10 bet and earn up to $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet with BetParks. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Make sure you guys download the app here today. Play along with us here today. I saw the bro is already looking at some of the bets here tonight. He's our betting guy here in the office. So, guys, if you are itching, think you got something good going on, that maybe a game tonight, you have a winner, a money line you like, then check out Bet Parks, guys. Thank you to our friends over at Bet Parks.
I love it. I love it. I love it. But it's time to get into the next pressing part of this, because as we mentioned, there's several layers to what the Philadelphia Union should be doing around their roster. It starts at the top with Julian Carranza, but it trickles down from there, because if they don't keep Julian Carranza this summer transfer window, if he is going to be traded, loaned, whatever term, acquired by another team, then what? And then on top of that, even if the Philadelphia Union do keep him, then what? Because this team right now, based off what we've seen in recent results, they're right there. They're getting ties. They're getting some close losses. They're giving up goals early. You can easily pinpoint some of the areas where this team is falling short. And we knew in the offseason they didn't do much in terms of major acquisitions. Marcus Anderson, Oliver Zemla, key pieces that they brought in they've clearly fared well, especially Oliver Zemla, who has had to step right into being starting keeper with Andre Blake's injury. So now moving forward, they still have more work to be done. But the question, I know, JP, going back to your Twitter conversation or your X conversation that you were having this past weekend, I know, is should it be a forward or should it be a defender? And I kind of go back and forth on this one. If they could only pick one, because that's the other thing. Realistically, what could happen is maybe you do spend a little bit less and you bring in two pieces, and it's an attacker and it's a defender, similar to what they brought in with an Oliver Zemla, Marcus Anderson, maybe a little bit more ready now. Again, Marcus has been fine; he just has been injured. Oliver has been fine, so maybe around that caliber of a player that's going to come in and compete for a starting spot and be able to help from the jump. Doesn't need time. Isn't so young that they're going to be a Union 2 player in terms of development. Ideally, that's what I would love. A deal where you bring in two. But if they can only bring in one, JP, what would be your one if you had to choose between a position that you feel like is most pressing for the Philadelphia Union that they need to have as an addition? And I know, George, you're joining us from the Flyers pod. So you just were there with JP and Charlie on the Flyers pod. Welcome over. We're talking about the Philadelphia Union. We were already discussing Julian Carranza and the future for him with the team. Now moving forward for the Union, who have been struggling to win games. They've been able to only have one win in the last 10 games. Something's got to change. If we're looking ahead to the summer transfer window, which position do they need most right now?
So I want to start off by saying this. I understand the contingency of the fan base that wants a defenseman. Look, defense overall for this team has not been good as of late. It's just alarming numbers, especially when you consider the Ernst and Jim era of Union soccer. It's unacceptable, quite honestly. I understand that, but I think that I've seen enough from both sides to understand that I think that this team right now needs an attacker. And I think the defense will be fine. I think the bigger problem, obviously, look, we haven't had consistency from, your 2022 MLS Defensive Player of the Year in Glesnes. Elliott, as of late, has come on strong. Obviously, low now with international break. He's had some in the starts that he's been in there. I've actually liked what he's given to. Kai Wagner and Harriel are solid too. But I think that overall, it's just been a team. It's been a team issue, right? I think that they haven't played as a cohesive unit as a team. That's why the defense has been flawed. I think that can be fixed. I think that has a better shot of being fixed. Now, the attack, though, my gripe with the attack has always been, I know they can score goals. I know everyone likes to throw the stats at me. I get that. I know the goals that they score in the regular season, but that's the point. What do those goals translate into the playoffs? And that's been my point the whole time. And so, when we're talking about what this team needs to go find, I think it's very simple for me. They need to find an attacker who can score goals in the clutch. And I've always talked about it, Renee, it doesn't have to. I know the team likes to buy kids in their early 20s, right? That's where they love to. That's a bread and butter. That's where they like to go find those players. But it doesn't hurt to find a veteran guy. And a guy that, if you need him in a clutch situation, can help you score a goal or create a goal-scoring opportunity. And I want some versatility. That's why I brought up the Diente Lopez stuff. I don't know how legitimate that rumor is, but I think that's a great recipe for what you're trying to look for when you're trying to continue filling out this attack. I know, look, we brought up Ua with Seba, and I thought Seba brought up some really good points.
He did.
The injury thing is legit, and I completely, I sympathize with that. I get that. But in now almost 3 seasons of just a workload that we've been able to see, I haven't seen anything to think that, wow, this guy is deserving of that contract. This is the guy who's going to lead the charge for 5 seasons of the Union attack. I haven't felt that ever. I feel like Ua does some really good stuff. I don't think he's great at anything, and I don't think he's lived up to what we thought he would be. And so, just for that matter alone, I think the attack is just a glaring need right now. And again, when come playoff time, what is this going to look like? And that's kind of where my headspace is at. The Diente Lopez stuff got me a little excited, but I think right now, and again, I want to raise this to the fan base. If you guys feel like we need a defenseman, let us know. But I think right now, Renee, this team needs an attacker more than a defenseman.
It is interesting because it does. You have to wonder which is causing the biggest issue. Is it the inability to put teams away offensively that's putting more stress on the defense? Is it the defense's inability to get a clean sheet, get stops, that's causing the pressure on the offense? And then there's other variables. The fact, as you talk about, Andre Blake hasn't been healthy this season. The back four in general has had a lot of different iterations, and there's been a ton of inconsistency there. And that does play a huge factor into it. Yeah. As a defense throughout your 11, it's really dependent on how consistent you are, how much you can be on the same page, because it's a lot of understanding help defense, pressure cover, getting organized. Like defending is not as much of a technical, I should say, ability as much as it is more of a tactical and more of a mental side. Scoring goals is more technical. That's more, being better, being creative, having better touches, better moves, better runs. You can be a really average player and be a great defender if you can read the game well, if you can anticipate well. So I do see the value of not changing the defense. The other side of it is I think defensively there are already options that can help fix things. So obviously getting Andre Blake healthy is one that can help fix things. But even if you switch to a 3-back system, if you switch to 4, if you maybe are playing a 3-5-2 or a 4 versus a 4-3-3, like depending on what the formation looks like, also slotting in, maybe it's Damian Lowe drop playing more alongside Jack Elliott, and Glesnes is not getting as many minutes, or Mbaizo's not really, he does well, but the outside back role with Nate and Kai, I almost said Kate. Nate and Kai is pretty
Clark
locked in. Yeah,
striker for the Union.
They're the same person. So that's the other issue is like defensively, if you were to bring someone in, who are you bringing in? Who are you moving? Like which position are you feeling is the weak spot that you have to change? Because I feel like Nate and Kai have been doing well offensively. I do think defensively they haven't been great with their organization though. Like I think they keep getting caught out of position. But again, I wonder if that's due to the injuries, inconsistency, not having the center backs and your keeper locked in as your usual leaders. So I also feel like I'm going to go midfield. I'm going to just stick with what my usual answer is, because I think this team is still missing that true, I hate to say that true 10 with Daniel Gazdag, but that true center midfielder. I think that when you look across the league in terms of, I have the stats up here. I want to just read some of them off. In terms of shots, the Union are actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, top 6 in shots across the league. In terms of shots on target, they're also in that top 6 or 7. In terms of goals scored, the Union are top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 9. They are also, in terms of corner kicks, top 10. In terms of expected goals, top 10. They're in the top half of the league in a number of offensive categories. They are creating. They are getting into the attacking third. They're not finishing. And to your point, I know you always talk about UA, JP. Someone like UA, Quinn Sullivan, even Jack McGlynn, they're not finishers yet. Mm-hmm. Julian Carranza and Daniel Gazdag are finishers. Mm-hmm. And I think they could use a true center midfielder that is a finisher, but also can help. I just picture in my mind, and I can't think of a name off the top of my head, but I'm just going to describe a player that has height to them, that's strong, that can move well and is agile, that can help in transition defending, but also help in transition getting forward and be that player. I think part of it is come in and get assists, come in and get goals. Like, come in and just get stats, because
so you
are
Jude
setting
Bellingham from Real Madrid, that big body.
Yeah, basically. And by big, I don't mean like you don't have to be like 6'6", but no knock on some of the players for the Union and El Brujo and different guys, but be like 6'2", 6'3", in the prime of your career, where you're not too old, not too young, and have good pace and literally can help them control the tempo. Because I do feel like part of the reason they're not able to finish is some of those final runs, passes, and shots are rushed and not as polished.
Okay.
They're shooting a lot. They're getting in the attacking third a lot, but I don't think it's composed and poised enough. I would love to have that composed, poised, true midfielder, I should say, that does it all. That just fills in the blanks, that just covers, that just makes the runs, that's spraying balls in a good places. And I don't know who that is, so I'm just painting the picture of what the player looks and plays like. But I think that's actually what's more important, because if you have the right center midfielder, they can help the UAs, Quinn Sullivans, Jack McGlynn's continue to help Danny and Julian score goals. I don't know.
Gotcha. No, listen, I completely get that. And someone brought up I think it was Dan Ciano, also brought up to the point to me too, that one thing that we don't talk about Carranza, obviously, listen, he's great at scoring goals. He's very skillful at that. Right. But Right, he helps a lot with holding up play. Like, he does a good
Yes.
job of dropping back and then helping with the attack and creating them that way. That's something you would miss as well with Carranza. So you're spot on with your point about having another center midfielder who can create
Hmm.
like that. Now, our boy George Garcia says, "Por qué no los dos? Why not both?" So he's saying,
I
like,
agree.
both an attacker
Ambos.
and a defender. Now, here's the thing:
Isn't
we
that both? Is
all
ambos both?
yeah, los dos, both. Yeah, that's a weird Spanish translation. But we would all love both. Yes, we would
Yes.
all love to have both the positions, but I'm just being realistic. I don't know if the union would invest in both, especially during the summer. Maybe winter more likely, but summer I think it would be a little bit tougher.
Right.
But you brought up another good point with the defense. Renee, once Andre comes back, I think the defense, that's going to be a big boost as well.
Hmm.
And hopefully when he does come back, he's fully healthy. Again, what does it seems like we are handling this properly. We're not, taking any risks
Yeah, I
here.
hope.
So when he does come back, that actually gives me a little vote of confidence that this defense will get back to the way they will play. But you brought up another good point as well. And that's why I like the Diente Lopez rumor too. Some versatility in tactics,
Hmm.
Renee. Like
Yeah.
that's why I bring up another forward and a forward who can play different positions because, we're married to this 4-4-2 diamond. We've had this formation. We've had these tactics for the last 4 or 5 seasons. But every time we do a preview show, Renee, every correspondent we have, what's the one thing they say? They know exactly how we're gonna play, right? And like for the past couple of years, yes, like it's been super hard to get past that. But now, after all these seasons of having some tape, and now MLS teams in general are getting better every year, this league is getting better. It feels like it's all kind of catching up to the Union, and so that's why I always bring up that 2019 season because that was the first year you really full time implemented that 4-4-2 diamond, and you had the caveat having an Elsinho on your bench who brought a different dynamic to the attack in the second half of a lot of matches. So having a different type of attacker in there that you can throw in, you can either start him or put him in the second half. That's just something that I just continue to envision here.
Mm.
George also brings up James Rodriguez. The thing with James, it's interesting because he still views himself as the best or one of the best tens in the world. And a lot of clubs don't view him like that. I do believe that there was interest from RSL and James was willing to go to RSL, but RSL was not willing to pay those wages because he still wants to get paid. So I would love James, but I think that it's not a liable option here, and I just don't think that. I don't think at this point of his career I don't know where his head's at. It just feels like he views himself in one way, and the rest of the world just doesn't see him in that type of way as well.
Yeah.
Jillian brings up a good point. Rafael,
Hmm.
Renee, he played extremely well in that Portland match. Feels like 5 years ago, but it was, I think, like 3 months ago now. And hasn't really gotten another opportunity since. Now, with this break here, Rafa might get some opportunities. I hope he does it should be getting some opportunities because obviously Gazdak will be with the Hungarian national team. But that's one, like, again, like you're just like wondering why he hasn't gotten more opportunities. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on in training. We're obviously not there every single training, but that's one player I'm curious to see if he can be of assistance here in the attack, Renee.
And that's a good point as well. I know in the chat, Ivan's asking about the Uruguayan
Diente
striker
Lopez, yeah,
Lopez. We did talk about that.
the tooth.
Yes, but the other part of this is we're looking at roster movements and additions and players and names out there. I know George is bringing up Abdoulaye
The
from
core, yeah,
Everton.
he's young, no?
The other side is like, do they have somebody that we're missing? Is it, and I know I said this before, is it someone like Damian Lowe or even Jack Elliott playing in the midfield as at 6? And maybe you do tweak the midfield. I don't feel like they have enough. I feel like it's too back to front with the way that the Union play. And as you mentioned, everybody that we've talked to that's not covering the Union and covers another team across the MLS automatically even knows that. Like that's, if they know it, we know it, teams know it, everybody knows how they play. It's very much wide flank service through Nate and Kai, down the wide flank, serve it in the box, finish, or set pieces, penalty kicks, corner kicks, whatever it may be. I would love them to have more versatility and unpredictability in how they're playing, being more dynamic. And so I do wonder, maybe they do have some pieces. Jeremy Raffanello, we don't see much of Ty Baribo, Jesus Bueno, Damian or Jack in the midfield. This upcoming stretch, when you're going to have a lot of guys that are away for international call-ups, is a great opportunity for the guys that are still there, the Jeremys and different guys, to see what they can do, to give them a chance to mix it up a little bit and see if you can create some more or get some more out of guys. If Marcus Anderson's healthy, if, Chris Donovan can take another step in his game, they have some youth. They've got some players, some pieces there. So as Jim Curtin mentioned before, this is a chance to get some other guys minutes. And we'll see if, similar to what we saw against Portland, not Seattle, that was not a good game. Portland, I know it was a West Coast, Northwest team. When we saw that breakout game against Portland, can we get some of that same energy and excitement and a surge in the Union the way that we saw against Portland when you had a completely different lineup? You didn't have Julian. You had Marcus Anderson out there. You had a lot of young guys out there, and it did make a difference. And you know where else you can make a difference? That's in your pockets. That's financially. Our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union are making sure to provide you with all the perks of being a part of a credit union. When you join a credit union like TrueMark Financial, you become a part owner. That means that your profits are coming back to you. They're not going to shareholders. They also have some great digital tools for you so you can manage your financing right on your phone and be able to control your financial picture. Maybe you're planning for a trip. Maybe you're planning for your kids' college funds, or whatever financially you're looking to save towards. TrueMark Financial can help you get there. They have better rates, lower fees, a better return on savings, and more flexible options for you as well. And it's expensive out here, guys. Whether you're buying a house, buying a car, trying to take a trip, getting groceries, whatever it is, it could be expensive out here. And TrueMark Financial can help you and your family to make sure to have better control over your funds and your spending. They also have local roots. They are headquartered right in Fort Washington with 24 branches throughout Philly. And I pass TrueMark regularly, especially the one on Broad Street when I'm going around Philly, because the best thing about that means it's convenience. A lot of us like to use our phones for banking and for financial, all of our finances, I should say. But with TrueMark, if you wanted to go in person, for those of you that still enjoy going into the branch, they're easy to find with those 24 branches throughout the city. So you can become a member of a credit union that has a ton of benefits over being a customer to bank. I know, JP, you've had your fair share of issues with banking. Many of us have. TrueMark Financial, you don't have to worry about that. It's a total no-brainer. So head over to TrueMark.com/PHLY to learn more or find a branch near you. Again, that's TrueMark.com/PHLY, federally insured by the NCUA with our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union.
Awesome stuff. I love it. All right, guys, listen, we're talking about a lot of stressful stuff because the union are stressing us out right now. So we all just need to chill, and we're going to do that with a nice cold Coors Light, ladies and gentlemen. When you choose chill and then you choose a cold, refreshing Coors Light, that's what we do here. Because obviously, listen, we all know that the union can be extremely stressful, all right? When the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When you embrace a chill mindset, it's a good time to choose and crack open a Coors Light. So here's what we got to do, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, we have a big one this upcoming Saturday with Inter Miami. I know a lot of us as well are looking forward to the Phillies back-to-back great series with Boston and Baltimore. So what better way to sit back, relax, watch some of our favorite Philly sports, and crack open that Coors Light? I know I'm going to be doing the same thing too. And of course, I don't even have to leave the house anymore, guys. I can get delivered right to my front step, and you guys can do the same thing as well. All you got to do is head on over to CoorsLight.com/PHLY soccer. You can get delivered with Instacart. And again, that's CoorsLight.com/PHLY soccer. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
All right. Well, this is a conversation that we can talk about forever because there's a lot that still needs to be figured out for the Philadelphia Union. I know in the chat, we're getting some various comments. Jose, you're talking about one of the challenges is teams like Charlotte and New York are gearing up to improve with new players, and the Union need to find a way to climb without adding. Yeah, very tough. George, you're also mentioning how this team feels like they just ran out of time, running it back a little bit too much. We've talked about that. It feels like they should have refreshed in some areas, and I think there's a good balance you have to try to find of not having too big of an overhaul, because that does require now time to reestablish your chemistry, reestablish your team, the foundation of your team. But to just add, they've had so many great pieces over the years, and they've also lost a lot of great pieces over the years. And so there's definitely a need for the Union in order to keep up with the way the league has been growing and acquiring big name players from, the top leagues in Europe, the top clubs across the world, the union have to find a way to keep up. And so hopefully, as we get closer to the summer transfer window, we're not only hearing rumors about guys leaving the union, Julian Carranza, but we're also hearing rumors about the guys coming to the union. Fingers crossed, we'll get some more like Lopez, where we're getting at least, I just want to hear them at least having conversations. Like, you hear Feyenoord's talking with Julian Carranza. Let's hear that the Philadelphia Union are talking to someone, or there's rumors or speculation they're having conversation. Please just give us something to show you're trying.
Yeah.
But let's switch to something that's a little bit more positive for some.
Real quick, Renee, because I just want to add one point, because George brought up a really good point too. One thing we don't talk about, because look how the season ended last year. Ended in Cincinnati, against Cincinnati. A tough part as well in building teams in sports, not just in the MLS, but in sports, is keeping the continuity. We've lost a lot of coaches and just technical staff members over the past couple seasons. And just to cross over sports, you saw what happened to the Eagles. They lost both offense and defensive coordinators, and that season just fell flat. And that's a big part about it. And for the Union, I'm not saying what they have right now is not good enough, but obviously what we had before was better, and that's another challenge. We've talked about a lot, the running it back. But another tough part about it is keeping those pieces in behind the scenes that makes the engine go. And that's a tough part about it too, George.
Yeah, running it back with the same players but different coaches is very difficult. So they have been getting changes in coaching staff. When you are successful, you lose coaches. Like the Eagles, you look over the years at the number of coaching changes that we've seen across Philly sports, and the Union are also having that same issue. So definitely,
George says, since he's just Union West, I love it.
Basically at this point. So during the international call-ups, we did see 8 different Union players get call-ups. From the Union to the youngsters that are representing, we saw David Vasquez and CJ Only joined the U.S. U19 squads.
Love it.
In training camp. That was they played Argentina in Buenos Aires, and then they traveled to Montevideo to face Uruguay. That's this upcoming June 11th. What is today's date, actually?
Today's June 10th. Tomorrow.
Wow. June is rolling by.
Oh, my God.
I don't even know what date it is ever, because this month is flying by fast. We also saw Ty Baribo gets the opportunity to join the Israeli national team for the international friendlies that went down. They faced Hungary June 8th.
There you go.
Yes. We saw Verdesio join Bolivia's national team. That was great to see him get that opportunity for Jaimir. Jose Martinez with Venezuela. So Damian Lowe with Jamaica. He's all set to play he played in the two 2026 World Cup qualifying matches. He's been playing with Jamaica and doing a fantastic job with their national team. They had their qualifiers against the DR June 6th, and then Dominica June 9th. And then Daniel Gazdag, of course, with Hungary, and locally with or national, I guess I should say, with the national team. Homegrowns, Jack McGlynn, Nate Harrell got the opportunity to join the U23 men's national team, and also got the opportunity to officially be called up in for the final U.S. men's Olympic team camp. So great to see that the Philadelphia Union have had players, representing them from the U19s to the senior teams on the international side. Now, one thing that wasn't so great for some, but great for you, JP, when you looked at U.S. versus Colombia, 5-1. Now, Greg Berhalter has mentioned how he's looking at the Copa America games as a chance to prepare for the Olympics. If this is preparation and you lose 5-1 against the very talented Colombia team, that's not great. That's not great at all. But for you, it was great, JP. You enjoyed that.
But okay, so all right, so I do have to ask, because I obviously I do see a lot of U.S. soccer discourse being part of the U.S. soccer community here. Is that what happened on Saturday? Is that means of firing Greg? I know people are tired of Greg Berhalter, but I get losing 5-1 in a Copa America tune-up game is not fun. But is that grounds for fire? Because I saw a lot of fire Berhalter after that game. I don't know. I mean, they also have other issues. You got Sergino Dest, who tore his ACL. You've got Tyler Adams, who's working back to get his fitness going. They had to put Johnny Cardoso in the mix more in the midfield. There's changes going on with this roster. They're not at 100%, yada, yada, yada.
I don't know, because I just feel like with Greg Berhalter, he's had so many opportunities that the U.S. men's national team hasn't been able to compete with the best of the best. You look across other countries, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, the U.S. are not there. And they don't feel like they're getting closer. Like, I think that's the hard part. There's still a lot of chaos with this group. And so I think part of the issue is, here you are again, you're going into Copa America, another opportunity. You face Colombia, you've got Brazil, you've got a great schedule, and then you go out and it's not even close. I don't even think it's the way they lose, I think, is the issue. I don't think it's the losses themselves. I think it's the way that they lose. And I know Berhalter was talking about how disappointed he is, and they're using it as a lesson, and they're referring to it as a wake-up call. I mean, how many more wake-up calls do you need? You don't qualify for the World Cup. You can't compete on the international level. What else do you need as a wake-up call when you're giving up goals, pretty easily? So I think that's partly why people are ready to fire him, because it seems like there needs to be a shakeup. This isn't working for the U.S. men's national team. The U.S. women's national team has made changes. They brought in Emma Hayes. They're making changes, and they've been way more successful than the men's national team. Yet the men's national team, realistically, what have they really been doing to change things? It's just been Christian Pulisic and mess. And not messing the players. I mean, like, mess around the team. The players are good. The team's just messy.
I definitely would not say Berhalter is a good coach, but again, like, getting fired after friendly, seems like that's just uncalled for. But I agree. Like, the U.S. team, when you look at it on paper, even like with some of the pieces you said that they're missing, it does feel like they're still a talented team. They definitely have been underachieving, and we'll see. Listen, if they get ran through in Copa America, I know that there's some talented teams, but yeah, that might be Berhalter's job to lose for sure.
That's the thing. These are your friendlies to gear up for Copa America. These are your friendlies to gear up for the Olympics, to finalize your roster. And this is how you're rolling it out. And listen, I do understand friendlies are different, because in a friendly, you are trying things out. You're seeing what you got. But this is not great at all. Again, and it's not just losing. It's how you lose, how you're giving up those 5 goals, how you're giving up chances. So it's very concerning, unfortunately. And I do understand the reasoning to want to fire Greg Berhalter.
I get it. Listen, and a lot of people are asking me this too. And Cuz is going to hate me for saying this as well. But like, it's hard for me right now to get overly excited just because of our history with these type of situations. Like, a lot of people have us favored for win Copa America. I have to temper my emotions here, because I've been here before. I don't want to get heartbroken again. Like, the 2018 World Cup is still fresh in my mind, right? So, like, yes, this is a lot of fun. It's great for Colombian soccer. They're having fun out there. Even like a guy like James Rodriguez looks like he's reawakened himself out there, but I have to be tempered, man, because I'm not trying to get heartbroken, guys. I'm not.
I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry, but we're all heartbroken when it comes to on the men's side for anything international.
I was gonna say,
my gosh.
I was gonna say, because the women's U.S. team will kill the Colombian women's any day. So
well,
let's just pay
the women are very good.
They're good, but the
not
U.S. women's are really, really good.
I mean, it's tough, because with how good the U.S. have been on the women's side, on the men's side, for it to be such a drop-off is really bad. And you talk about Greg Berhalter. He is 35-5-8 against CONCACAF opponents, and 8-7-7 against the rest of the world.
Wow.
I mean, the numbers have been interesting, to say the least. But I do think that this group, when you look at most recently, I know you look back at the CONCACAF Nations League in March, you look at recent outings, they're taking baby steps. I will not use the word strides. It's baby steps. They're getting closer. And it is just a friendly, so let's try to keep that in perspective. But 5-1 is not good at all, and a chance to really fine-tune some things and see what you've got and get ready for Copa America and get ready for, again, everything that's coming up. And that's the performance that they rolled out.
To that point, Renee, I saw this on Twitter too. Can you imagine if CONCACAF and CONMEBOL were to join forces and merge together? There would be no CONCACAF teams qualifying for the World Cup, I feel like.
I know.
That's the sad part about it.
Yep. Well, we'll see if they can bounce back, because last game took an L, but Wednesday they can bounce back. Going up against Brazil. That's down in Orlando.
All right, Big Sean.
I know, right? You see that? So that'll be the final tune up before everything really begins on Sunday against Bolivia.
It's a fun summer of soccer, Renee.
I know.
We have so much good stuff to watch. All soccer fans are winning.
We are. You know what? There's a positive spin.
Yeah.
We've got great soccer. I know earlier in the chat, Jose mentioned the TST tournament.
Yeah,
Listen, soccer right now, we've got
that.
7v7 tournaments. We got the pre-Copa America friendlies. We've got Copa America this summer. The Olympics is coming up. It's a great time for soccer overall. So there's the positive. We're all winning because we all get to watch some really great soccer, period.
Absolutely.
But final thing as we wrap up here, exciting news. We were talking about before the show, Andrew and I, we feel like this was just the MLS looking for another reason to talk about Lionel Messi and find a reason to tweet about him, because we did see it break the top 25 selling jerseys as of now across MLS. And number one, guys, are you surprised by number one or number two? If you don't know, now you know. It's Messi and Suarez, 1 and 2. Top ranked players. I don't know and let me see if I can actually pull up the piece that had the numbers.
You know what I saw yesterday at our Phillies watch party, Renee?
A Messi jersey?
I went outside, and that park across the street, they were playing baseball. There was a little kid in a Messi jersey.
But see, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. You're at the park, you're playing. First of all, you're outside playing. That in itself is a win for that kid. You weren't sitting somewhere glued. You weren't glued to a video game or something, but you're running around. Like, that's the time to rock those jerseys at the park with your friends, playing pickup. Not when you're at like a Philadelphia Union game.
If I was a dad and my kid came out to me saying he wanted a Messi Miami jersey, I'd ground him. You wear Gazdag in this house, and that's it.
What? No. I feel like you raise them to know who runs supreme, like who's the top of the top, but then you can also encourage them to just be a fan of the sport.
Well, I had this conversation with my father-in-law, because when my brother-in-law was a kid, he wanted a Barry Sanders jersey, and he explained to him, I will buy you this jersey, but you remember, you're an Eagles fan, but I will let you wear this.
That's exactly it. That's exactly, like, the kids in my family, that's how we teach them. Like, these are our teams, but these are also some other good players you can keep an eye on. Like, my nephew knows, he's like, I'm number 3 for Bryce Harper, but I also like Mookie Betts. That's fine.
Okay.
Like, you just got to know the priority in the totem pole, because you got to be a sports fan. So being at the park in that jersey is fine. And apparently there's a lot of people at a park in a Messi jersey, because it is the top selling jersey. In the top 25, you've got well represented Inter Miami. FC Cincinnati's got Luciano Acosta. You've got Cucho Hernandez. You've got a lot of great players here. And yes, the Philadelphia Union do have somebody in the top 25, because allegedly, according to this list, the highest selling jersey for the Philadelphia Union is none other than Jose El Brujo Martinez. I was a little bit surprised by it, actually.
Definitely.
We always talk about
special.
who is the face of this team. Who's the guy that people want to go out and buy a jersey for? Who does that kid in the park want to buy a jersey for? Apparently, it's El Brujo.
So I do have an El Brujo jersey from the Bayous. I got this in 21. And for me, only because when he got signed, I was the first one to bring someone onto my YouTube channel to talk about it. So I kind of gave people the insight about it. So I felt connected to El Brujo, and I got to talk to him. He's really, really fun person. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I got one. But I am shocked that's El Brujo. I would honestly, I would have pictured either Gazdag or Carranza to be the top selling jersey. And I guess it just shows. I mean, I guess the kids love El Brujo. And another thing too to remember, we are shocked, but Renee, if you were to pick one player on this team that represents Philadelphia, we would have to pick El Brujo. Just the way his demeanor on the pitch, people love that. It's like why people love the Flyers in the Broad Street Bully era. They love that aggressiveness. He just embraces Philly, I feel like. And then the Rocky thing when he goes bloody in his first game against LAFC back in 2020. I think it all goes full circle.
I mean, yeah, sure. I don't know. I don't even know.
If goalie jerseys were more accessible, I feel like Andre would be up there.
I was going to say, Andre would be the one to me that's a no-brainer. Of course, he hasn't been playing this season because he's been injured. But to me, it's Andre. Ali Bedoya would have been the guy, but his role has just diminished. That he's not someone he's more of like a role player leader in that sense versus being someone that's either scoring goals or saving goals. But I do feel like maybe, I know Julian in the chat is saying how she's seen a lot of Martinez jerseys. Even, one of her students wears one to school. I do feel like he might be that guy that if you're watching as a player or watching as a kid, and you see a player that's out there making highlight plays And his highlight plays aren't always good highlight plays. Sometimes it's him, like you mentioned, it's bloody, it's fighting, it's tackles, it's squaring off, getting nose to nose with somebody. But that could absolutely make him a fan favorite in the sense. He's not, like, he stands out. He's someone that when you watch a Union game, and I would love to see this for people's fan experience. He's someone that I feel like everybody notices. Good or bad, whatever the reason may be, you notice him. He gets the crowd going. He gets the excitement, the aggression. He makes the game physical and feisty, and he brings the fire. And so I could see that. Now I'm talking myself into it. It does make sense.
Also, too, I mean,
he's flashy, but not in the same sense of like he's out there megging people and stuff like that. He's flashy in a different way.
It's what it is, Renee. It's the personality. You know as well because you cover the Phillies.
Yeah.
The people love the daycare. All right. They're not the best players on the team. They're good, but not the best players on the team. But they love the way the daycare is. And the relationship between Marsh and Bohm. Like, people just love that. And that's why they kind of connect with them. And that's why people probably connect with Bruno Martinez. We love, kind of like the muckers and the grinders in this city.
Yeah. And as I've been saying, the dance moves too. They definitely he's probably making them think of Fortnite. I like that. That's a great point. Andre was a top seller last year, guys. That is a good point, as Kyle and Julian are mentioning. But there's no surprise Andre's not in the top this year. He hasn't been able to play. And you just wonder, had he been healthy, if he's in that top 25, of course, getting clean sheets and making saves would probably get him in the top 25. But for the team right now, with Andre injured, with Ali in a different role, with Julian Carranza and Daniel Gazdag always being rumored to be tied to other teams, who is that person that truly embodies Philly, embodies what the Union are all about? You also want to get a jersey of somebody that you feel like wants to be here, is going to be here, plans to be here for years. And I guess that is El Brujo. I could see, though, in the future, we're going to see some Sullivan jerseys, whether it'll be Quinn. You probably thought I was going to say Cavan. But unless we see Cavan actually play on the pitch for the Union, I think we could see some like McGlynn, Sullivan types of jerseys. I think the next.
I mean, I would recommend getting those players because, like, let's say like Cavan is a good player for Manchester City. He's starting in Champions League.
You could get a Cavan Union jersey, and then he goes and plays with Manchester City.
Yeah, like that'd be so cool. Like, you have his jersey before he became Cavan Sullivan. Like that would be super cool to see. So
yeah,
it's interesting to kind of talk about all these, and like this Union team is so interesting because like you don't have that one player that kind of sticks out.
Yeah.
But I mean, who if you could pick a jersey, what jersey would you pick on this team?
See, I don't even know. I think because of just covering the team, I would go with and like following all the years, I would go with Andre still, even despite this season. Like, this is a 2024 list, so they're only looking at this season. But I think overall, bigger picture, I would get Andre's jersey. I would get. Ali would be probably my number two.
Shocked, like, there's not more love. Like, I get he's old, but like, this is a club legend too. Like, that's the captain in Union history. I'm surprised he's not higher up.
Ali?
No one even brought him up in the comment section. Yeah.
Because he's not even a 90-minute player anymore.
But like you're
not going to buy his jersey now. I would have bought his jersey a few years ago, maybe.
But like, this is like your last shot though, because then after that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're buying it because this is the retirement. He's done, and I'm going to buy his jersey.
This is his farewell tour. I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry.
But that's how I feel like. But you know what it means? It's time for the Union to go shop for that guy that we can buy a jersey for. This is the time. The Union are missing that guy because El Brujo being the highest for the Union. Great to see him in the top 25 for selling jerseys. I do think the dance moves, the aggression, the fiery personality, him bucking up to guys, getting nose to nose, even though he's not the tallest guy in the pitch, does make him a fan favorite. But it's time to also add to that list. Let's make this conversation a little bit more difficult. Bring in a guy that is going to sell jerseys. Bring in a guy that's going to be the one that kids want to rock his jersey and his kit. Hopefully that is the case. So that'll do it for us here on PHOI Union Podcast. We've had a lot to look at over the last week. We've been following the international friendlies and the call-ups. And, of course, it's only going to get rockier as we continue watching how the Union look without some of their main pieces, as they're going to have the overlapping of the international schedule. And I saw somebody tweet out, like, only the MLS would have a third of their schedule overlap with the international games, and teams are going to be missing their best players. Yes, that is the case. So we'll see how this all shakes out. Summer transfer window, the rumors, all of that's going to continue to swirl around the Philadelphia Union. But thank you so much to everyone that's tuned in on Twitter, on YouTube. It's great to see so many of our friends and our Union comrades that are here joining us in the chat. Jose, Julian, Ivan, Kyle, George. We appreciate all of you for joining us. And for JP, myself, Renee, have a great rest of your Monday. We've got a Miami preview video coming for you, so stay tuned. That'll be dropping later this week, as we'll have a chance to preview the matchup for the Union taking on Inter Miami. Gonna be an interesting one. More to come here on PHOI Union Podcast. Have a good one, guys. See you next time.